I wasn't sure like whether I should address this or not. I wasn't sure like if I should draw attention to it. I wasn't sure like how big of a deal it was gonna be. I wasn't sure what fallout this could cause me personally or like what I need to talk about in the future. Like it's one of those things where I'm just like, do I want to talk about this topic? Like, is this something that I need to address? And I've decided that it is, but I do have to be like somewhat careful about like what I talk about here because a lot of what I'm talking about is kind of going to be very dangerous for me personally, right? Talking about some of this stuff openly is probably going to get me killed, to be completely bluntly honest with you. I'm not exactly scared to die. Obviously, I've talked about like really strong topics on this channel before, but at the same time, like, there's so much I want to accomplish, so much I want to do. You know, I have so many other like things I need to do for the community and just there's still like a war to be won, right? Like we're still in the middle of the conflict with like Sweet Baby and like Gamergate 2 and stuff like that. Like for me personally, it's just like, is this the hill I want to die on? Like talking about some deep lore in regards to this channel and the situation we find ourselves in. And I've realized that like yes, I have to talk about this. And honestly, it's one of those things where someone kind of forced my hand because I've been getting messages about this like, oh man, this girl looks like she could be your sister. Right? There's a Sweet Baby. There's a Kotaku writer who looks just like you. Talking about all these liberal politics and having all these crazy hot takes. Man, like, oh man, Harman Smith's sister. That's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. She is my sister. Yeah. I uh I I didn't want to admit this to anyone because it's one of those things where you're just like, okay, like I don't want to attention farm on this. I don't want to like make this like, family drama known and things like that, but like, yeah, seeing my sister on my Twitter feed all the time, talking about how she hates all men and talking about like Sweet Baby talking points and like trying to like just justify what Kotaku does, justify what Sweet Baby does, justify like the liberal like elite in general. It's like disgusting to me. Like, but at the same time, like, should I really talk about this? Really, it's just one of those things, man. It's just one of those things where I'm just kind of like how much should I talk about? Like, what should I reveal? Like, what kind of like again, like, okay. So I've talked in the past about how like my background is kind of messed up, right? I've alluded to it in the past, and I haven't really talked about that much. And like the reason for that being is that like it's just not something that like normal people can really understand. And by normal, I mean like working class or middle class or upper middle class, because like I come from like the elite, okay, like the true like blue, just like top of the line, wealthiest families on the planet, right? The true 1%, right? In that regard, right? And the thing about the true 1% is the idea behind them is that they implement progressive policies to limit the opportunity of the poor, right? So essentially, they fool women into thinking they can just whore themselves out to the elite, while men become the slaves, right? And so, like the idea for those policies, for the progressive policies, is like to enslave the general population, right? But the thing is, this kind of thinking has become so common among like the elite that a lot of them do genuinely believe a lot of its dogma, right? A lot of its policies, right? So like when it comes to my family specifically, this super liberal uh, like unit, the family unit. The idea was that, like, well, we believe that the patriarchy is a real thing. And as a result of that, we are going to give your sister, who is 5 years older than me, we are going to give her everything, right? She is going to be getting like these massive allowances, money like deposited straight into an investment account. She's going to have like opportunities, go to the best colleges, be arranged to meet up with the best people, just like she's gonna have like millions of dollars in to her name by the time she turns 18, right? By the time she becomes like of age, right? Meanwhile, you, the boy, are going to have to go to like the trashiest public school we can find. You're going to be shoved in like the worst classes with the worst teacher, surrounded by diversity. You're going to be like tutored by homosexuals. You're going to be like just used and abused by like all of these people in your life, right? You are going to be making your own way, right? You are going to be working a slave labor job, less than minimum wage job, and paying all your own bills, right? You will be buying all your own food. You will be paying for your own education, your own housing. Like that is the mindset of these people, right? Like we have to overcome inequality. Like we have to prevent boys from doing better than girls in every way, shape, and form, right? And so that's the mindset. That was the idea when they raised us that way, right? So when it comes to me, um, I was I was essentially um before I was even like 18, I was living in this like just shack, on the outskirts of town, not even on like our property, right? Like I was just like I was not like I wasn't like I was essentially squatting in a place that wasn't ours because I wasn't allowed in the house, right? And I essentially ended up like getting my hands on a Nintendo DS, right? And I began like, charging it in public and stuff like that. And I managed to realize that like, wow, I really, really enjoy this Nintendo stuff, right? Like I think it's really fun and enjoyable and stuff like that. And I'm not allowed to have fun, right? That's another thing that comes about because of like the we can't let boys be boys thing. Like you're not allowed to have fun, right? So because this DS like came into my life, right? Because I found it on the side of the street one day, like because I have this thing, that's a problem, right? That is a real, real problem. So like I wake up in the middle of the night one day and my front door is being banged on, right? Someone's just out there just going like, and so like I kind of like roll over on like the dirt floor and I kind of get up and then the thing just kind of like falls over, right? It wasn't like a real door. It was like a sheet of metal that I had like placed over it, and I would just like place it back whenever I wanted to like lock up for the night or whatever. Like so like the thing just comes crashing down, and I see like three guys in black suits there, right? And so like they come into the room and they're just like handed over. And I'm just kind of like rolling on the floor, just kind of like what? Like, hand it over. Hand it over. So I'm just kind of like, "Ugh, I don't have anything, bro." Like I'm thinking that like they might be like with the police, and I was finally getting in trouble for like the situation I found myself in, right? But instead, what happens is that like they want the DS, right? They want the DS because my sister is writing a hit piece on Nintendo right now for Kotaku, right? She had like failed out of all of her colleges, like she had become a stripper, she had gone through that entire process. She had gotten hired on Kotaku, right? So she was writing a hit piece on like the Nintendo DS then, right? Right then. And she couldn't have me sitting there enjoying a Nintendo DS. Because if it came out that like I was playing a video game, if it came out that I was a gamer, that would spell really big problems for her in the community, right? Like they would come after her, right? Like it's a real legit problem. Like you're not allowed to like video games in the video game journalism community. Like even your family aren't allowed to like video games in the video game community. So like these three guys in black suits, they like advance on me. They whip out their whips and their chains, and I think yeah, one of them had a gun, right? And so like I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of like I'm like thinking about like everything that had happened to me at that point, right? I'm thinking about like how unfair it was that I was treated this way, about how like I was being persecuted against for playing a Nintendo game. I was thinking about like my miserable life up to this point. I was thinking about everything I went through. I was thinking about like everything wrong that happened to me, and I just kind of like went into like this daze, right? I kind of just was like sitting there as these guys like advanced towards me, and then like I kind of just like zone out, right? Like I don't remember what happened after that, right? But I remember like just the next thing I was on my feet, just kind of like gasping for breath, right? You know, there were like gashes of blood all over me. My head was like bleeding. There was like all this like there was all this like all these bruises all over my body, and like all three of those guys were like lying dead at my feet, right? Like I had somehow like just awakened some kind of crazy primal fury within me, right? When they threatened to take my Nintendo DS away from me, it sparked this like just insane contempt and hatred for the people around me. And yeah, that was the start of Gamergate, right? Ever since then, I've been going around just attacking every game journalist I could see. You know, I've been ripping them to shreds. I've been like eating them alive, you know, boiling their pets in like these pots of gold. You know, I've been traveling the world, you know, fighting like all of these elite game journalists from all these magazines. You know, I've taken out IGN, GameSpot, you know, I've been like heavily involved with like fighting people like Colin Moriarty, right? And all the while, my sister has been doing hit pieces on Gamergate, right? Trying to like make us out to be like complete monsters, right? Because oh no, look at how violent this guy is. I don't think I've ever been referred to by name because like I'm just so feared by the community, right? Like I am like they are legit afraid to say my name because of how scary they are, how scary I am to them, right? It's one of those things like it's just one of those things that like it just kind of happened, right? And all of it's true, but it's one of like the secret stories of Gamergate. You know, one of the many stories that have just been boiling under the surface for the long time. And yeah, like for the past 10 years, while everyone else has like been sitting around with their dick up their ass, talking about like Jarbo or whatever, like how he false flagged all those people. You know, I was actually out doing stuff. You know, I was actually out like actively just guerrilla tactics, just hunting down these people and doing all these things, like anything to bring freedom to my fellow Nintendo fans, right? And it's been a long, hard road to get here, but we're finally ready to strike. Like I have trained like millions of gamers all over the planet to strike back at Game Journalist HQ. They're running scared. Like they're not scared of Gamergate too. They're not scared of Grums. They're scared of me. They're scared of Travis. They're scared of me. The apex gamer. The ultimate in video gaming. Whenever I'm not like playing video games and and being hyped up for the next Nintendo product. I'm hunting down game journalists. I'm doing all this. Like I am doing everything I can to stop my sister from causing more problems for anyone else. Like this is my story, and this is going to be the story that defines gaming for generations to come.